Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. Listen, thank you everybody for coming here tonight, and I can't say how happy I am. I first met Eman Al Haj Ali, I say met, online via a friend of a friend in March 2024 when I was asked to help amplify Eman's appeal. I never thought for 1 minute I would actually meet Eman. You know, that just seemed quite incredible. So the fact that she is here tonight and we are actually together here in Glasgow tonight is a miracle. And it's such a pleasure and such an honour to welcome Eman to Glasgow and just for everybody to be here. And Scottish Pen obviously welcome you. I'm the Vice President of Scottish Pen and we welcome you here tonight. Unfortunately, the President of the Scottish Pen, Eman Brown, can't actually be here tonight, so he's asked me to read out a message on his behalf. Apologies and welcome from Eman Brown, President of Scottish Pen. Please accept my apologies for being unable to join you today at what I am sure will be an important and informative talk by Eman Al Haj Ali. As you will know, and as others will no doubt mention, Eman is a journalist and writer in many media, not least in the anthology We Are Not Numbers, which recently received a glowing review from Scottish Pen trustee Jim Aitken in Culture Matters, and will be featured in an event, or was featured, this week, in an event at the Edinburgh Book Festival. What makes this all the more remarkable is that Eman has created this work while trying to escape the genocide in Gaza and create a new base for herself in Ireland. Lizzie Eldridge and Scottish Pen's Writers at Risk Committee have followed this journey and done what they can to assist Eman. We can be proud that Scottish Pen has helped to facilitate Eman's series of speaking engagements across Scotland, and that she has agreed to fit this Scottish Pen sponsored event into her packed schedule. My thanks and the thanks of the Scottish Pen Board of Trustees are due to you all for coming along today, to Lizzie and the Writers at Risk Committee and their colleagues at the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign, and most of all, to Eman.
Hi everyone, so it's truly a privilege and a pleasure to stand in front of you today and see so many curious and engaged faces looking back at me. So I chose this title to begin my talk with, and it's inspired by my late professor Rafat's poem, which is called If I Must Die. So I chose this title, If I Must Tell This Story, because I do believe and I have this feeling that it's important to tell our stories. Our stories matters, our dreams matter, and our lives and losses matter, to let the whole world know about us. So I'm Eman Al Haj Ali. I'm a Palestinian freelance journalist, writer, and translator. And I'm a member of We Are Not Numbers, and I have my publications published on a variety of international and local websites, such as the New Arab, Al Jazeera English, the Examiner, the Electronic Intifada, the Middle East Eye, and of course, We Are Not Numbers. So I'm a member of We Are Not Numbers, a platform that has been advocating for the voices of the Palestinians to let their stories shared around the world and be heard. So I have participated in publishing many books and zines. One of them is the book We Are Not Numbers. So it's a book that includes about 60 stories of the best stories for the past 10 months that have been published on the website We Are Not Numbers. And I participated in a zine called We Were Seeds. So this zine includes poems and articles. All of them advocate for Palestine and ask for the ending of the genocide. Also, my writings have been translated into Japanese, and they are sold in Japanese books now, bookshops in Japan. I'm also a survivor of the genocide, and I have been evacuated from Gaza just 3 months ago. And I am now completing my postgraduate studies in Ireland. Yeah. So let me begin with this. My life before the genocide, my dreams, and my family. So who I was before the genocide. When people ask me about my age, I often say 7 years old. So I do not say I am 23 years old. And it's like a kind of dark humor that people have been using to create a sense of laughter during the most horrifying times, during the struggles, and even during the genocide, trying to erase our pain in a sense of dark humor to create laughter between each other. So joking about the number, of course, so we have witnessed many wars and aggressive attacks on the Gaza Strip. And I have witnessed wars and aggressive attacks since I was young. So this genocide was not the first for me. And without any hesitation, this genocide was the worst that I have witnessed in my life. And like many children in Gaza, my life has been shaped by trauma. I am the eldest in my family and also the most spoiled one for my parents. And I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. So there has always been a heartbreaking story in my life, or even in my childhood in specific. And the reason behind that is one of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. So for many years, I lived as an only child. I dreamt of having a sibling to share my stories with, to play with, and to spend my time with, or even to go to school with as any other children in their childhood. My parents always have been taking care of me. They have always been spoiling me all the time as I was the only child for them. So, but there was always something missing in my life that I need a sibling, I need a sister or a brother to spend my time with. And after about 10 years, my mother got pregnant. I was overjoyed at that time. And finally, like I would have a sibling to share my stories with, to play with, and to spend my time with. My whole family was overjoyed at that time, and we started preparing, buying clothes for this baby. But unfortunately, that joy was not completed, and the reason for that, one of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip, it was maybe in 2008, as far as I remember. So I remember that day clearly when I was eating breakfast with my family on the table when I was young. So we were just listening to the radio on the news, and we heard that there would be an Israeli escalation on the Gaza Strip. At that point, my father told my mother that we need to go to our grandmother's home because it's much safer for us. At that time, we went there and we were all living or sitting in one living room. People in Gaza during the Israeli attacks, they sit in one room. They don't want, if one has been martyred, if one has been killed, they don't want to feel sorrowful, or they don't want to mourn the other one. So either they live together or either they die together. So all of a sudden, a sudden near bomb happened. And while my mother was sitting there near the bathroom at that time, she fell heavily to the ground and she started bleeding. Unfortunately, at that moment, all what we were thinking about is the baby inside her room. So my father rushed her to the hospital, and unfortunately, we received the heartbreaking news that the baby has died inside her room. So since that day, I maybe have felt angry and I have the fury and anguish toward the Israeli occupation because I have lost the chance of having a sibling in my childhood because of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. And after that, my family and I started to cope our life together. And after many years, thanks to God, my mother got pregnant, and I have now 3 brothers and 1 sister, as you can see them here. And this time, I am blessed to have them. I feel that I'm their second mother, not their eldest sister. I take much responsibility on in my shoulders toward them, taking care of them all the time, trying to tell story to them and teach them even in their schools. So I have always tried to make my parents proud of me, just to give them back what they have given me in my childhood as their only child. So I have always been trying to make them proud of me, either in my daily life or in my studies. And in my high school, I got the third top from Palestine and the second in Gaza. It was called the Tawjihi exams. And I obtained my bachelor degree from the Islamic University of Gaza just 2 months before the beginning of the genocide. I earned my bachelor degree in English literature and translation. What I want to tell you about is that we as Palestinians, or we as the Gazan people in general, or specifically, strive for education. They strive to teach their kids since their childhood, and give them what they can do, what they can for education in order to grow up literate. And we are people who love literacy in general. So I was eager to start my career life, just as any other student around the world who obtained and finished their bachelor degree at the university. And I obtained many positions to work companies there in the Gaza Strip, but unfortunately, that was not completed because of the genocide that has turned everything upside down. So in October 2023, just 2 months later, the genocide began, and everything has been turned into ashes in a blink of an eye. So let me say or talk about our life during the genocide, during the displacement, loss, and endurance. So when the Israeli escalation began on the Gaza Strip, we were not shocked at that time because we had lived through many hard attacks previously. But we said in our minds that this genocide or this war would last maybe days, weeks, or at least months. But unfortunately, we were wrong at that time because the genocide has lasted for more than 2 years, unfortunately. And there were many stages of displacement during this genocide that we have faced. So we have faced many evacuation orders and moving from one place into another. And we were just squeezing our life into backpacks. Can you imagine this? To squeeze your entire life into a backpack, a small backpack that includes the most essential documents and just maybe 1 or 2 changes of clothes. So we were just putting our clothes into these backpacks and trying to evacuate in what the Israeli occupation called as safe zones. However, these are not called safe zones, as the Israeli occupation were targeting and killing the civilians, the children, the women, the elderly, while they have been evacuating on the roads to what's so-called as safe zones. So once we heard about the evacuation orders, we didn't, my father at that time said that we won't leave our home. We, as Palestinian people, know that we cannot abandon our homes easily. We love our homes and we are attached to our homes because they mean a lot to us. They are part of our souls, they are part of our personalities and characters. So we stayed in our home at that time, but the bombs got more and more intense to the extent that we cannot we cannot like bear that, and we heard that there would be an invasion on our area. So we were forced to evacuate and to squeeze our lives into small backpacks, carrying only one or two clothes. And each time we were told to evacuate, these backpacks become lighter and lighter because we lose more and more every time of our essential labors or our things that we have. So one of the most horrifying and terrifying displacement was when we were forced to evacuate to Rafah during winter. So it didn't feel like a city for me. I saw it just was a cage in which people are imprisoned. I saw it like a sea of tents in which people of pale faces just cramped into tents that lack the basic necessities of life. So I still remember those days when winter days, when there were not enough blankets to keep us warm, and when my younger siblings were just slept cold with empty stomachs and hungry. Some of us were sleeping on the ground because we did not have enough mattresses. And when the rain seeped into our tent and flooded it, days just without flour, just a lentil soup or just pieces of a bread if we are lucky to have it, and there was no privacy. Can you imagine that people are using public toilet or public bathroom just to go to it? And days where my father and my younger siblings just were going for long distances just to get a small gallon of water or just to get meal from the 80 trucks if they were lucky to find it. And I still remember in those 2 years when my birthday came in November. In November in 2023, my first birthday came during the genocide. So at that time, I was heartbroken and I felt sad because I used to celebrate my birthday with my family and friends. So I said that at that time that maybe next year it would be better, and I wished for that the next year would the genocide end. But the genocide did not end, unfortunately. So during our evacuation, while we were displaced in Rafah, we received the heartbreaking news, unfortunately. I remember that day when when we received the news that our home got burned and destroyed at that time. At first, I couldn't believe it. My mind immediately started to remember all of the memories that I had spent with my family there. I just started to remember the living room where my family and I were sitting together enjoying our time. I started to remember my bedroom where I slept in my cozy bed, worked and studied on my desk, and kept like shelves that full of books and other novels. So I started to remember the kitchen where I was standing beside my mother when she was cooking the traditional Palestinian food that we are famous for, like manakish, mulakkan, makluba, and other Palestinian meals. And I started to remember how the overview of our home that overlooked the lands full of jasmine flowers, full of all of the trees, and other things like the sounds of sparrows from our kitchen. So we had spent so many years and so many months there, and now it was all gone. Can you imagine that all of your memories can just be turned into ashes? And this is how our home looked like. It had been burned, and all of our memories have been turned into ashes. My bedroom has been burned, and our living room, every single memory. This is what the Israeli occupation wanted. They want to just to shatter our lives. They want to shatter our dreams and every single memory we have left in our homeland. So one of the displacement stages was in front of the seashore. And at that time, I didn't see the sea as a place for me to get entertainment as we used to go to it before. What used to be a source of joy for people had been turned into something that I couldn't bear to see or to look at. So the water was polluted at that time. You can see diseases everywhere, pale faces, yellow faces, people who are tired, people who are exhausted, people who have been forced to leave their homes and just to set up a tent in front of the sea if they were lucky to sit it up. Many people have been just sleeping on the harsh ground, sleeping on the sand, without something to cover them. So the feeling of homelessness was suffocating, and displacement felt like living through another Nakba for my family. And even sacred occasions, for Muslims like Ramadan and Eid, times of joy for Muslims around the world, we're not joyful for the people of Gaza. During Ramadan, while people around the world were gathering just to break their fasting or just to pray at Taraweeh at mosques, people in Gaza have been killed, and these mosques have been leveled on their heads while they were praying. And in Eid, while children around the world, especially excited, they like to prepare is prepared for Eid or buy new clothes, buy sweets with their parents. The children in Gaza have been begging their parents, just wanted them to buy them new clothes, but their parents are helpless. Just tell them there is no maybe next year. So they are helpless and speechless, and that they cannot tell them that we are genocide, we are being held because they are innocent as children. They cannot understand what's going on. And on Eid al-Adha, when Muslims slaughtered Adhiya around the world, people in Gaza have been slaughtered instead. So my siblings and all of the other children in Gaza have been robbed of their innocence. Innocence have been robbed of them, and their childhood have been stolen. And instead of spending their days playing, laughing, or going to schools with their other siblings or their other brothers, so they have been going from one place into another, holding their backpacks, just from one tent into another, fearfully because of the bombs. Not while the other children around the world, they hear their backpacks and going to school. So the children just walk long distances happily as children around the world like walk happily, like playing and listening to music, while our children have been sleeping on the sounds of missiles, on the sounds of drones, and on the sounds of wordlings. So their innocence and their childhood has been stolen, and I'm gonna talk about something else, which is the Gaza we knew, the Gaza we lost. So Gaza has always been called an open air prison, and its people, we as Palestinians in Gaza, have been living under its siege for about 17 years. And we are the Palestinians, have been seeing Gaza as the paradise on earth, despite that we have been under the blockade for about 17 years. We have seen it as a homeland for us. So people in Gaza love to work, they love to innovate, they love to create and to find joy even in the simplest things. And Gaza is full of beautiful and eye-catching places for people to visit, visitors from around the world, and like love to visit and come to see the eye-catching places there in Gaza, like it's a traditional market. And for example, Al Omari Mosque in the Gaza Strip. So this Al Omari Mosque, it's called also the Great Mosque. It was built for about 1,400 years, and it has always been a place of serenity, a place of prayer for Muslims in Gaza, or even for visitors and tourists from around the world who have been visiting Gaza and coming to visit Al Omari Mosque or the Great Mosque. So it's one of the largest mosques in the Gaza Strip, and it has always been filled with. It has included a library that has always been filled with books for people to read and important documents from history. So it has been always located in Ad-Darij area near Al-Qaisariya market. And unfortunately, this mosque, along with other mosques in the Gaza Strip, have been bombed and have been targeted. by the Israeli occupation, and this is like an attempt to erase our heritage. So, and it's not just this. Most many churches, many museums, and many libraries have been bombed during the genocide. So when these places are destroyed, it's like a loss of our human's history. This is called a cultural vandalism in Gaza. This shows how urgent it is to protect our heritage. So we are just asking ourselves all the time as Palestinians, like, when will the world's powerful governments and institutions finally stand up against the destruction of these irreplaceable treasures? Also, as I mentioned before, one of the most gorgeous places to which the Gazan people have been going is the sea. Also, people from around the world have been used to visit it. So, people in Gaza have always found in sea the serenity, the entertainment. They have always prepared for a trip for the Gaza Sea just the day before. The children were happily just preparing for that to go in the morning, to eat their breakfast in front of the sea. We have always found sea as one of the most favorite places, and also during summer to eat our breakfast in front of the waves, the traditional breakfast like falafel, hummus, and eating hot bread and drinking tea with mint in front of in front of the sea waves. It was one of the most delicious breakfast we have ever tasted, while taking a fresh breath and listening to the sounds of sparrows and birds around you. And not only that, people used to make to prepare barbecue party for lunch, and the rest of the day, the children can build sea castles, and they just try to show their hobbies and talents on the seashore. You can find vendors around the seashore trying to sell candies and sweets. And at night, you can hear people started like to dance and they play the Palestinian dabka, and dance together. So we have always had our own atmosphere as Palestinians, but unfortunately, all of that have been ruined during the genocide in the Gaza Strip. And people, instead of that, they used to go to the sea not for entertainment, just trying to escape the fear, trying to force to evacuate there because their homes have been bombed, because they do not have any other refuge other than the sea. So, as I mentioned, the sea during the genocide has been turned into, I think, it was not only the people in the Gaza Strip have always, even in the genocide, sometimes you can find people going to the sea just trying to forget about the fear, trying to forget about the bombs around them. So they always try also, even during the genocide, to go to the sea despite the fear and despite the missiles and the threats they have been facing during their life. So I'm gonna talk about an important thing, which is the importance of storytelling and writing for me as a writer and a storyteller in the Gaza Strip. So writing and reading have always been my passions, and writing is truly the heart of reading. So active reading helps you to write more and more. And over the years, I've always tried to document everything around me. I've been writing feature stories. I've been writing opinion articles, personal testimonies, poems, and fictional stories that has been going on around me. So I love capturing the world around me, expressing my thoughts and my feelings through both speech and writing. So I believe that writing is essential for sharing our messages, especially for those who prefer to read. So I do believe that words hold an incredible power, and it's really important. So I want to talk about the importance of writing and storytelling over the last months during the genocide. Writing and storytelling means much more than just getting through it during the crisis or during the horrifying months that we have been facing as the Palestinians in Gaza. So since the genocide began, I've always tried to document what's happening around me, to document the fear, to document the starvation, how children have been suffering, the suffering of women, the suffering of elderly, how children have been killed not only because of the bombs, not only because of missiles, but they have died because of the lack of food, because of the lack how newborn babies have died because of the lack of baby formula. So there are many kinds of death from which people in Gaza can die, not only because of missiles, not only because of bombs, but they can die because of starvation, because of the lack of food. So I recorded also the diseases that have been going on in the Gaza Strip during both winter and summer. And the suffering has been always been unimaginable. People have been stripped of their, let me say, of their dignity and their basic necessities. They have been deprived of their basic necessities. So the loss of life has been deeply painful for everyone in the Gaza Strip. And I had to try to capture the fear in our children's eyes, the desperation of our people, the malnutrition, and the scarcity of medical supplies. So, as a writer and storyteller, I feel a deep need to write, not out of choice, but out of necessity. And I truly believe that writing has become our voice, and I truly believe that writing has become our voice and my way of bearing witness to the atrocities committed against us and my hope for a better future for Gaza. So when I speak about storytelling and writing, I always talk about my late professor, Rifat Al Ali, whose work has inspired me deeply. So Rifat Al Ali was a professor, writer, poet, and translator, and he was a literary figure and was always been described as the voice of Gaza. So his impact extended far beyond just being a professor at the Islamic University of Gaza. He mentored lots of students in the Gaza Strip and trying to connect them with the whole world, with mentors from around the world to let them publish their stories, to let their voice reach out to the whole world. So I wrote an article about Rifat Al Ali during the genocide. It was published with the Washington Report for the Middle East Eye, and his killing was an assassination. It was deliberate. It was not collateral damage. It was not random, and uh, so, according to the Euromed Monitor, they mentioned at that time during the genocide that the Israeli occupation deliberately killed him because the Israeli occupation bombed at that time just the second floor of the building, the whole building. They just bombed the apartment in which he was living. So Dr. Al was my literature professor, and I took many courses with them that shaped my personality. And among those courses was a course on Shakespeare, so a writer he loved a lot. So whenever when we were saying Dr. Rifat Al Ali, we just among us as colleagues, we were just saying that Shakespeare has come because Rifat has always loved Shakespeare as a writer. So his commitment to persevering oral history, as he highlighted in a talk in 2015, he showed the urgency of maintaining and asserting cultural narratives before memories fade because of the propaganda that the Israeli occupation has tried to mislead the whole world by both by their propaganda. So in 2018, his profile on TED has on X Twitter has been closed. It has about maybe 88,000 followers, and this shows how the Israeli occupation tried all the time to silence the Palestinians, to silence the voices of Palestine, to silence the voices of Gaza. And this is a kind of censorship. So after that, in 2020, he opened another account, and his followers were about 100K followers. And just before days of his killing, just before a few days before his killing, he was saying heartbreakingly about about the massacres, about the killings of the people in the Gaza Strip. So he was a founder of one of the founders of We Are Not Numbers, and he mentored me along with other young writers in the Gaza Strip. And he has always been telling us to use our pen as a way to resist the Israeli occupation. He always encouraged us to write more and more as he believes in the power of words. So Dr. Yair was shaken by the destruction of the Islamic University of Gaza, and he joined the list of other professors who have been assassinated during the genocide in the Gaza Strip. The president of the Islamic University of Gaza has almost been killed, along with other professors. So this shows how the Israelis try all the time to kill the intellectuals, to kill the professors, the voices of the Gaza Strip. And this in front of you, as you can see, the Islamic University of Gaza before the genocide and how it has been turned into just ashes after the genocide, after it was bombed. And this is another photo that shows the conference hall of the Islamic University of Gaza, from which I have graduated just 2 years ago. So that it has also been turned into just ashes, and they tried all the time to let us forget forget our memories, our beautiful memories we spent in the educational places. Also, Dr. Rifat Al Ali participated in writing mini books. One of these books is called I'm Silenced, Gaza. He co-edited it with Layla Al Haddad, and another book is called Gaza Writes Back. It includes stories from the people around the Gaza Strip. So Dr. Rifat Al Ali, before he was assassinated and killed, just short days before his killing, he was on a live stream with one of the media outlets. It's called the Electronic Intifada. And he was just saying and crying heartbreakingly and telling during that live stream that I am an academic and I am a professor, and maybe the toughest thing that I have in my home is an expo market. And if the Israeli occupation invaded us, if they opened the door to target us, I would hold this pen and throw it against the Israeli occupation. And he said that this is the feeling of all of us as Palestinians. We are helpless. We cannot do anything. And let me just play the video to show it to you. So this is how this shows the Professor Rifat before, just days before his killing and assassination. So
it's very bleak. It's very dark. There's no way out. If there's no water, there is no way out of Gaza. What should we do? Like drown? Like commit mass suicide? Is this what Israel wants? And we're not going to do that. And I was telling some friend the other day that I am an academic. Probably the toughest thing I have at home is an expo marker. But if the Israelis invade, if they charge at us, open door to door to massacre us, I'm going to use that marker, throw it at the Israeli soldiers, even if that is the last thing that I would be able to do. And this is the feeling of everybody. We are helpless. We have nothing to lose.
this is how
We know that it's very bleak.
our professor has been killed and assassinated just because he was the voice of Gaza, because he was just trying to tell the truth to the whole world. So, as a mentorist and as a father, Dr. Rifat's poem, which is called If I Must Die, he just wrote it in 2012, and it just came well known days before his killing. And this poem is called If I Must Die. So let me read it to you. If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of blood and some strength. Make it white with a long tail, so a child somewhere in Gaza can look heaven in the eye If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale. So I wanted also to mention something. I do believe the power of words all the time because I do believe that every Palestinian is an archive of collective memory. And we are not just statistics that you find on a page. And we are real people. We are humans with individuals around the world. And each one of us has our own stories. Each one of us has our own dreams. So when people around the world, when they talk about Palestinians, they try just to often say that we are either that they just try to mention either events on politics or either to numbers, just to focus only on numbers, which is numbness. They do not mention about. They only mention about the number of people that have been killed. They only mention about the number of injured people. They do not mention about or talk about the humanitarian stories of the Palestinian people, that we are people full of love, full of hope, full of dreams. So they fail to capture the daily personal struggles or the tears and laughter or the dreams and aspirations that we are all sharing as humans. So Palestinians have been dehumanized in this narrative, and their humanity is overlooked. So this is precisely why I believe in the power of words. It allows us to break through the numbness and to share our stories and to reclaim the depth of our experiences. So I feel suffocated when I cannot express what I've been feeling through words or through writing. It's not about just myself. It's about telling the whole world about what the Palestinian people have been suffering for a long time. So I have shared my personal experiences, as I told you, in order to amplify our voices, to get our stories heard around the world. And still, unfortunately, so many people around the world turn a blind eye to our suffering. Let me ask this: like, why we have been enduring this? What is it our guilt? Is it just being born Palestinian in the Gaza Strip? Just being the indigenous people of this land living in our homeland? So many people have been still seeing us through a narrow lens, either as unwavering figures who have to struggle all the time, or as victims to be pitied. So the truth is that, as I mentioned before, that we are humans full of dreams, and as anyone around the world, we yearn for our simplest rights. We yearn to teach. We yearn to work, to learn, to eat, and to drink. For our children to sleep peacefully with the sounds of songs rather than the sounds of bombs and missiles. We are the indigenous people of this land, and we deserve to live peacefully as any other people around the world. So let me talk about the challenges I faced as a writer, I faced as a storyteller during the genocide in the Gaza Strip. Because of the blackouts of the electricity, so we have been forced to just use solar panels to charge our phones. And sometimes we are not lucky to have that. And I used to go just long distances to have maybe to some extent a stable internet connection, just to trying to write and publish my work with the new media outlets. So it has been, and sometimes I feel that my hands are tied. Just I can't write anything because of the horrifying scenes that have been seeing for the people, for the massacres, how people have been shattered into pieces around on the ground, like children who have been cut into pieces of meat because of the bombs on the places on the Gaza Strip. So, and what has made the situation even more tragic is the continuous and deliberate killing of the journalists of the Gaza Strip, our colleagues and our reporters. So, at least 238 Palestinian journalists, outlets, and workers. Um, so their lives. Several others have been injured, and many others are still missing, according to the government media office. So this targeting of the journalists means that fewer people report on what's been going on the ground. As a result, the cruel actions being committed against civilians here are less likely to reach the world's attention. And this is exactly what the Israeli occupation wants. They aim to mislead the whole world with their propaganda. They want to silence the Palestinian voices. They want to erase us from existence. But but what the Israeli occupation don't know or doesn't recognize and realize is that no matter how hard they try to silence the Palestinians, no matter how they try to crush our souls and our spirits, we come back even stronger than before. We come back stronger to defend our rights in many different ways. We hold on hope even and our children who dream for a better future. We see it in the mothers who tell stories to their children at night, even under the sounds of bombs, under the sounds of missiles. We feel it in the doctors who keep treating their patients using flashlights without electricity to complete the surgery. We see hope also in our teachers who turn tents into classrooms during the horrifying moments of the genocide. And we witness it in the journalists who keep reporting in the ground despite the threats, despite the continuous threats of by the Israeli occupation to kill them. So this was not the journey that I imagined in my life during my 20s. So it was in April where I was forced to evacuate the Gaza Strip into Ireland and in order to complete my postgraduate studies. So I'm a survivor of the genocide in Gaza, and coping with exile has been one of the hardest experiences I have ever faced and endured in my life. So, like anyone, I had dreams. I imagined traveling, completing my postgraduate studies in peace. And I never imagined that this week would be marked by such horror, by such fear in my journey. But I didn't have a choice. I was between two minds, either to leave my family or to abandon them in the most horrifying moments, or just stay with them and forget about my future. So I didn't have a choice. I was forced to do so. So I left Gaza and I left behind me the rubble. I left behind me the death and the fear as Gaza has been turned into a graveyard. So streets became unrecognizable, homes were flattered, and shelters have been turned into just into tools like the organizations I worked for before. So I still remember. I still remember the night before I left. I didn't sleep a minute. I hate goodbyes, but I was forced to bid farewell to my family at that night. So I hugged my mother, my father, and my little siblings were around me, and my heart ached for them at that moment. I felt like I was abandoning them in the most time that they needed me. So when the time when they were starving, the time when when they have been afraid, just afraid because of bombs, being fearful to escape from one place into another. So, but I promised them at that time that we would meet again under better skies. One time we would meet and together, and we will make our future and our life much more than before. So the journey outside Gaza was terrifying. We could bring only just one small handbag. We were not allowed to bring other things, just the essential papers and maybe just one change of the cloth. We felt that we left everything behind us, and the road to Kerem Shalom border at that time. We saw the Palestinian lands for the first time at that time. So our road to Rafah was really terrifying. It was out, there were no people, just empty lands. All of the homes have been leveled to the ground. So the area, while during my road, I just was remembering all of the memories during our displacement and the genocide. I remember the horrifying moments where we were in tents during winter and summer, and it was like a terrifying and horrifying moment for me to go through those roads. So after that, we crossed during the Palestinian lands, and literally this time was the first time for me to see the Palestinian lands in my life. And at that moment, we saw the Dead Sea, we saw Jericho and other cities. So they were all beautiful and eye-catching. We looked at them and from the windows of the buses, just taking photos and videos to remember them later on. This land was our land, and we are its people. Yet we couldn't walk through its streets. We were just helpless, just taking photos and videos of our homeland. And I felt that anguish of how I saw the Israelis enjoying the coastlines, enjoying the seashores with their children and kids, and how we are the indigenous people, how we are the owners of this land, cannot even walk and go through the streets of our cities. So as exile continued, memories overwhelmed me. So I realized at that time that I would never come back to Gaza. I would never come back to walk through its streets. And I would no longer hear the call of the prayers in mosques. I would no longer smell the aroma of the Palestinian traditional food from restaurants and from kitchens. I would no longer hear the sounds of sparrows from our kitchen in Gaza. And I am not my family, and I'm not originally from Gaza. My family has been displaced. Our ancestors, they have been displaced during the Nakba in 1948. So my family are originally from Jaffa, and now history repeats itself for me. I feel that this is my first Nakba was during the genocide when I was forced to evacuate our home and during many stages of displacement. And my second Nakba is now in exile while I'm living away from my family, from my homeland, from my people, and how my thoughts, my mind is still with them all the time. And I am one of many survivors who were forced to evacuate everything behind them. My mind cannot rest. I cannot accept living away from my family. I cannot accept the fact that I'm living now in peace while my parents and other families in Gaza are living under the sounds of bombs, fearful from being displaced from one place into another. So living in the exile now, some people may tell me that you are lucky. You have been displaced from Gaza. You have fled the fear, you have fled the bombs, but it's not that the case. I am struggling from post-trauma can you imagine that when I hear the sounds of ambulances or when I hear the sounds of planes in the sky, unintentionally, I cover my ears, fearfully that a bomb would happen or fearfully that there is a mortar that got killed. So living in exile is not relaxing at all. I am exhausted and worried about my family, my people all the time. Whenever I just go across the supermarkets or the streets here and see the kitchens or see the restaurants, the places full of food, I remember my family. Whenever I see children going to school, holding their backpacks, I remember how our children cannot hold their backpacks and go to school. So also, I want to talk about other thing, which is the loss of connection all the time. Can you imagine this? During the blackouts of the internet, during the cut of the electricity. So the silence of no signal, no message from my family, no voice from home is really devastating for me. So I had never imagined that this story would be marked by suffering, but my story would be marked by suffering, by exile. But I promised myself and my family that this is not the end of our story. This is not the end of our story. We will return. Our life will be better than before. And Gaza follows me in every step I take, the sound of the sea, the sound of the prayers in mosques. So we are scattered across the world, but something that still connects us, our belonging to this land. We will continue writing, we will continue speaking, we will continue demanding for our right to live freely in our homeland. We are its people, and no exile or no blackout can erase that truth. So my final message is that they tried to bury us, but they did not know that we were seeds. Thank you. So for anyone who has a question or something, I'm always. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. That must be very painful and it doesn't stop. I know of one or two teachers who are operating as I have heard of the children in your family getting any school education and texts.
Sorry, can you repeat it
Is
again?
there any school texts?
Yeah.
Where your family is?
Actually, not all the teachers are able to educate children in tents. You know, even the tents that have been turned into classrooms to teach children, sometimes they have been bombed. So even teaching children in such horrifying moments is really unbearable, and it cannot like be all the time because of the fear, because of the evacuation from one place into another. Yeah, so when I talk about that tents have been turned into classrooms, I do not generalize it, because not all of the teachers, not all children can go to tents and learn, and not all of the teachers can educate their children. So till this moment, our children have been robbed of their right to learn, their right to attend schools and classrooms. Yeah, because even schools have been turned into shelters for the displaced people, and even schools that have been turned into shelters have been bombed because of the Israeli occupation. Yeah, so we are about to enter the third academic year. It's about to begin in September, and our children also are deprived of the right to learn and to begin their new academic year. Yeah. Thank you for your
Coming to Glasgow, and I wish you every joy and denial of Ireland.
Sorry.
I wish you every joy and
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ireland.
Any other question? Yeah. Go ahead.
What's your dream, man? What's your dream?
What's my dream?
What's your dream?
It's quite a difficult question, but my dream is the biggest dream is still to be an academic, to be a professor like my late professor to reach out our voices as Palestinians, to reach out our suffering to the whole world. Yeah, that's my dream. Thank you. Any other question? So yeah, go ahead.
You have to face wanting to be in the fight. Someone is very or Palestinian, but then that control the borders to escape out of them.
Actually, my evacuation from Gaza was because I've gotten a scholarship to continue my postgraduate studies in one of the universities in Ireland. So yeah, I was evacuated because of that, because I'm a student and the Irish embassy had evacuated us. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Thank you for speaking to us so vividly today here and in Australia. And I'm very strong by your absolutely very, and this dehumanizing narrative of Palestinians,
Yeah.
the way in which just numbers. And of course, as advocacy people in our organization,
Yeah.
we're very active in, promoting the numbers as we have to get this in applause. And nonetheless, I think we're supposed to do that. Even I'm becoming very aware of how it becomes kind of normalized, just landing numbers about, and what we don't get is the stories of Palestinians that's being used in your own experience. And of course, you have to upload that to where there's a bit of a paradox, and I'm just wondering what would be a kind of advice on that, would be activists of our organization.
Yeah. So,
Get over that entirely.
so your question was if I would be an activist in one of the organizations in Ireland.
No.
Uh,
So we
Can you
start-
repeat your questions briefly?
I think what Tom was saying, and so you're talking, we are not numbers,
Yeah.
and when we're giving information,
Mm,
often it's given in numbers, which is horrible.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to describe that we're talking about individual human beings.
Yeah. So do you
But
have a
how-
specific
How
question?
do we, so it's a bit of a puzzle, a paradox, it's a bit of a contradiction. How do we cope with the idea that we have to use numbers to tell people
Yeah.
this many people have been killed? But at the same time, we want to say each of these people are,
Yeah.
everyone is a human being.
Yeah. So this was your question. Actually, as you have been seeing on the new media outlets, they try all the time to show the numbers that number of people have been killed, maybe 50,000 have been killed in the past. Sometimes they do not mention at all how these people have been killed, or they do not mention the doer of this action. They do not say that the Israelis have killed the Palestinians. They say just 50, for example, 50,000 Gazans have been killed without mentioning the killer, without mentioning the doer of this action. So that's why we find that numbers and the numbers can lead into numbness. So people around the world cannot understand the stories behind that. They cannot feel and hear and see the stories, how these people have been killed, how they have been shattered into small pieces, how every one of those people has their own story, a teacher, a child, a doctor, a journalist. So they do not show this, just the new media outlets do not show this. And that's why I believe in the power of words. That's why the organization of what's called We Are Not Numbers. So we are not numbers, it's from its name. We are people who have their stories, who have their dreams. So we have to write, we have to show the people the other side, the humanitarian side, our hope, our determination. And we are not just people who have been just needed just to suffer all the time. We are people who love, who dream, who cry, as any other individual, as any other human around the world. So this is the idea from which this side, the idea of we are not numbers came. So we are not statistics, because numbers can lead into numbness, and people cannot see or touch what's going on behind numbers. Yeah, thank you for your question.